Okay, let's get started. Laravel. New, let's call our app LC Voting. Now, I personally like starting with the design as that dictates the features of the app and things like models and relationships. Other people like starting with the database design and defining all the models first, and that's totally fine as well. I've done this in the past, but whenever I did, I always asked, what does the design look like? I'm also a very visual person, so seeing a pretty design in the browser makes me feel like there's progress being made. So we know we're using Tailwind CSS, but we also know that we need an auth layer. We have several options here, but the two major ones are Breeze or Jetstream. I'm going to be making use of Breeze since I just want something simple, but Jetstream should work as well. Make sure that if you're using any of these packages, you install them first before writing any code. If you install them at a later point, they will overwrite several key files like your routes file, and if you don't have version control set up, you've lost all your progress. So let's go ahead and install Breeze first. Let's go into our app, LC Voting. And for Breeze, let's go ahead and set that up. So Composer require it, and it's Breeze install it when it's done. So yeah, this will install Tailwind. It will set up a layout file for us, and I believe it also installs Alpine. Let's go ahead and Breeze install everything. And that's npm install and npm run dev. Okay, that's done. Let's go ahead and open it in VS Code. And let's set up our database while we're here. Let's make a new one called LC Voting. And let's go ahead and set that up in our database. Create a new one here, LC Voting. And let's go ahead and PHP artisan migrate. And now this should render correctly in our browser. So LC voting.test. And we can see the links here. Okay, cool. So let me just zoom out a bit because I'm at a lower res here. Okay. And like I said, Breeze sets up a master layout. So if you take a look at resources, views, layouts, you'll see, I believe there's two here. Yeah, so one for the actual app and one for the guest. So when you're not logged in. So let's make a few changes here. So normally when you log in, you're redirected to the dashboard, which you can find here. But in our case, we just want to redirect to the main page because this page can be viewed by everyone and you don't have to be logged in. So let's go to our route service provider and let's change the redirect to the main page here. Okay. And let's go ahead and create our first page. So let's go to our routes file and we no longer need this dashboard. And let's make a new view called index, and this will be this page right here. So I'm using an app called Zeppelin for the design, and this has everything you need. So as a designer, you would export your designs from Figma or Sketch into this app, and as a developer, it has everything you need, like colors. You can see the size of this particular box here, and all the assets you need. So let's go ahead and create this page. So I named the index, and maybe later we'll put it into a folder, but for now I'll just put it in the views directory. Index.blade.php, and we are going to extend the app layout and we'll make changes to this as well. So just copy that, paste that in here, and let's save this and save the routes file as well. And let's take a look at our layout. So app.blade.php, and all of this scaffolding is fine. Let's change the title to Laracast Voting for now. The font that's being used is the same font on the Laracast site, and that's Open Sans. So let's change this to Open Sans, Open plus Sans. So that's our Google font import, and we'll add that to the Tailwind stack in a second. And here we're importing our CSS and our JavaScript. Okay, so for body, font sans is fine. Change the text or the color, text color to text gray 900 by default. It's also set the size of the text to text small. Okay, let's go back to our index page and let's get rid of all of this. Okay, and let's just put something in here for now. Index of ideas. And let's go back to our design here. We have the logo on the top left and the avatar on the top right. But I also want the login and register links up here if we're not logged in, and a logout link here if we are logged in. Actually, let's just start with the logo and the avatar for now, and then we'll add the links in a second. So back to our app. Let's get rid of all of this for now. And let's make it a header tag. Let's make it flex, items center, and justify between, because we have an item on the left and an item on the right. And let's give some padding as well, px8 and py4. Okay. And the first flex item is going to be the Laracast logo. So let me just add that. Say the Laracast logo. We'll add that in a second. And the second flex item is the avatar. So again, for now, I'll just put a default avatar and just make an image tag in here. Actually, let me just paste that in because we're going to make use of Gravatar for our avatars. So more on Gravatar later, but this is the hash of the person's email. And if that doesn't exist, you can specify a default image. And MP is a mystery person. And I don't think we did this FY thing, so let me just erase that. And I have some width and some height on this and rounded full, so it's a circle. So let's see how this renders. Back to our page here. Okay, so that looks good. So now let's add the login and register or the logout links up here. So if we go to our welcome blade, we can take it from here. So let's look for login here. And you can see if there is a login route, then it shows these links. So let's copy this. Okay. And this should work correctly. So back to our layout here. Let's put it right above here. Okay. And since we're not logged in right now, this should show login and register. And it does, but we don't want it to be fixed. So let's get rid of that. Okay. And I guess we don't need this as well. And why is it hidden here? Okay. So let's make it flex. So I believe this container should be the flex container. So they're next to each other. So flex, items, center. Okay, so that's fine for now. And we also want the logout link if we're logged in. So let's log in, or actually let's create a new user. Andre. Okay, so this should redirect back to the home page. But now we want a logout link here. We don't want this, we want logout. So let's go ahead and add that. So this should be within this navigation blade component. And there is a form here, so we can log out. So let's just grab this and let's replace the dashboard here. So instead of this, let's just use this thing, this form that I copied. And instead of this drop-down link component, let's just make it a normal link. Okay, and that should work. And it does. Let's see if we can log out here. And it looks like it does work. Actually, let me fix this syntax here since it's not a blade component anymore. And this link doesn't really matter, but let's just put it in curlies. And now that should render like a link, and it does. Cool. Okay, let's continue with the design here. So first I want to add the actual Laracast logo. So if you go to the Laracast site, and if you right click the logo here, you're brought to an assets page and you can download the SVG here. So we want this one in this case. And I already have this on my computer. So let's go ahead and add it in our site. So it is an SVG, so we can add the code directly inside our own code here, or we can add it as an image file. So for me, for icons such as this chevron and this clip, I usually add those inline. But for things like logos, I just add them like a typical image. So let's do it that way. So up here for the logo, let's go ahead and add an image tag. And let's just say an asset logo. Sorry, the asset should be, I think I have a snippet for that, do I? It's going to be in, let's put it in the image folder and let's say logo.svg. So let's go ahead and make sure that image is in our folder. So let me open this up. Let me just change this to a list. And public image. And I believe it's in my downloads folder. Logo SVG. And let's put it in here. Okay, so let's see if that works. Okay. Next, let's add the default gray background. So let's add that on the body itself. So usually I make use of Tailwind's default grays. And for the most part, I'm doing that here. But for the actual background, I took the exact color from a Zeppelin here. So I don't know where the color is in the actual app. So I'll just use my color picker here. So F7, F8, FC. So let's go ahead and add a class for that in Tailwind. Let's say BG gray background. Okay. And let's go to our Tailwind config. So this was added by Breeze. So let's go ahead and extend our color scheme here. So let's go to theme, extend, say colors. And let's add, what did I name it? I named it gray, BG gray background. So let's say BG gray background, and let's paste in our value here. Okay. Actually, there should be a number sign here. And while we're here, let's go ahead and look at Tailwind's default theme and add some colors here. So I believe it's called default config or something like that. So default config.stub.js in the node modules folder. And let's look for colors here. So we're not going to use all of this, but we will take some of this. So let's grab this, black, white, and gray as well. So let's copy this, let's paste it into our Tailwind config. Let's put it above our custom gray. And instead of cool gray, which is the default, I'm going to make use of true gray, which was introduced in Tailwind 2.0. Okay. And you can see it says Tailwind CSS colors is not defined. So we have to import that up here. So const colors equals require Tailwind CSS / colors. Okay. So that should work. Okay. And make sure to npm run dev after you make changes to your Tailwind config. Okay, let's see if the background changed. Actually, let's go ahead and change the font to Open Sans while we're here. And one more time. Or you can run npm run watch as well. Okay. And let's see if the font and the background color changed. So it looks like the color did not change. I think I know what I did wrong. Let's check the font. So the font is Open Sans now, so that worked. So yeah, we don't need to add the BG here. Tailwind will add that for us. So it's just gray background. Again, npm run dev. Try that again. And now it looks like it did add the gray, and it did. Cool. Okay, let's continue. What's next? Okay, now let's work on the general layout of the app itself. It's pretty simple with this 2-column setup. This one on the left and this one on the right. And we can either use grid or flexbox for this. And I'll just use flexbox since it's pretty simple. So we can see the width of this. It's 281 pixels. So I believe 280 plus 1 for the border. So 280 plus 700 is 980. And I believe there is a margin here of 20 pixels. So that's 1000 pixels. So usually I just make use of Tailwind's default container, but in this case, we'll try to follow the design here. So it's 1000 pixels altogether. So let's go ahead and do that. So back to our app blade. After our header here, let's go ahead and start a new section here. So let's make it a main tag. And this is the container, but we'll override the size of the container. Let's make it MX Auto to center it. And it has to be flexbox. So the 2 columns are next to each other. And for now, actually, let me make the 2 columns. So this will be the first column. Let's just put some text in here. Let's say lorem 100. And same for the second one. Say lorem 200. Okay. So let me just put inline styles for now, and then we'll move it to Tailwind later on. So like I said, it's 1000 altogether. So max width 1000 pixels. And for this one, it's 280 pixels. And this one is 700 pixels. And this one also has a margin right of 20 pixels. So let's just add that in for now. Margin right, 20 pixels. Okay, so let's see if that layout looks okay. And it does. So let's convert this to Tailwind units. So I'll make a new max width utility. since it doesn't go this high. So let's say max width custom, and we'll convert this to rems. So 1000 pixels to rems. I have this utility here that converts pixels to rems. So let's say 1000 pixels is 62.5 rems. So let's add a new max width utility on the Tailwind config. So Tailwind config, let's extend max width underneath the colors here, max width, and let's say custom, like I named it, is 62.5 rems. 62.5 rem. Okay. And let's make sure to put a comma here. And for the other widths, 280 pixels to rems is 280 pixels, 17.5 rems. So 17.5 times 4 for the Tailwind scale times 4 is 70. So let's extend the spacing scale. So back to Tailwind. Actually, let's add that first. So let's say width 70 here. And we'll add that in a second. So width 70. Oops, not style. That should be in a class. Class equals width 70. And you see 70 doesn't exist here in the scale, so we have to add it ourselves. And I believe margin right 5 is 20 pixels. And you can see in the Tailwind IntelliSense that it is. So let's get rid of this style. And for 700 pixels for this one, again, let's use this pixels to rem. 700 pixels, 43.75 rems. So 43.75 times 4. 43.75 times 4 is 175. So let's add that as well. So let's get rid of this. Class equals width 175. Okay. And let's go ahead and add that in the Tailwind config. So we are extending the spacing scale. I said 70 for the first one. So that's 17.5 rems. And 175. That's 43.75. Okay. So now let's npm run dev again and see if everything looks the same. Okay. And this should be exactly the same. And it is. Cool. Okay, moving on. Let's see what's common between the two views. So if we go to the other view here, you'll see that this and also the add idea form is the same. So that belongs in the master layout. So let's put a placeholder for the form for now. So here. So the form goes here. Add idea form goes here. Let's add some text here. Okay. And let's work on this for now. So it's going to be a flex container. On the left, it will be this, and on the right, it will be this. And each of them will be a flex container as well. And we have to add some margin and some padding, so we get this blue underline here. So let's work on that. So down here, let's get rid of this. And like I said, flex container. Actually, let's make it a nav. So nav, flex, items center, justify between. And I have it as text extra small. And the one on the left, I made it an unordered list. So let's go with that. Flex, uppercase, font, semi-bold. And let's say space X 10. Okay, let's add a list item here. Let's add a class on the list. Actually, let's put the class on the link itself. Class equals, let's put the actual title in there first. So first one is all ideas. And I think there's a number beside it. Yeah, 87. Okay. And let's just see if that renders first. Okay. And I'm going to add the colors in here now. So we have a blue here, which is the main primary color. And you can see the hex value down here. And we also have colors for the different statuses. So yellow, red, green, and purple. And for the grays, I'm just using the default Tailwind scale. So let's go ahead and add this in our Tailwind config. So I'm just going to paste it in to save some time. So let me just paste that in underneath my gray background here. So I have this blue, a slightly darker version for blue hover, and yellow, red, green, and purple. So let's run this again. And now I should be able to have access to that blue color, which is the color of the border for this. Okay, let me just zoom in here. Okay, so as of now, there's no border on this yet. So let's add the gray border first, and then we'll add the blue border. So the gray border will go on the entire unordered list. So on this UL, so let's say border B, let's make it the size of 4. Let's also give it a padding, so PB3. Okay, that should give us a border. Cool. And if I had other list items here, it will extend the entire width. So let me just duplicate this to make sure. And it does, cool. But we also want a blue border on each of the list items, or in this case, it's on the anchor tag itself. So border B4 again, PB3 as well, and border blue. Let's see how that looks. Okay, so this should be only on the active item. So if I were to duplicate this, there should be no classes on this one. Okay, so that looks good. So for the non-selected ones, it should have a lighter gray color. So back to the design, you'll see this one is selected and these ones are lighter. So let's do that. So text gray 400 is what I'm using. And the second item is considering. And there's a number in here as well. Considering. And let's put a transition on this. So let's say transition, say let's make it slow at first so we can see it. Let's ease it in. And let's add a border B of 4 by default, PB3. And on hover, we want a border blue. And this should have a nice transition. It does, cool. So yeah, let's make it faster. I'm happy with 150. Okay. And that looks good to me. So yeah, let me just paste in the rest here. Okay, so I pasted it in and this is what it looks like. So it's looking pretty good. Okay. So let's do one more thing here. And that's going to be these filters here. And this only belongs to this page. So we'll do it in the index page. As you see, it doesn't have anything in this page here. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. Actually, I think I forgot to add the slot in here. So after the nav, let's go ahead and make a section for the slot. Okay. And this should render the index page now. There we go. Okay, so let's go to the index page. And let's go ahead and work on these filters here. So I'll make a new section. Let's call it filters. And let's just end it here so I can see what I'm doing. And filters. And let's go ahead and add these drop downs. So Breeze installs the Tailwind Forms plugin. So you can see it in the config here. Requires the Tailwind CSS Forms plugin. So this adds some extra styling to the drop downs. So it has some good defaults. So in this case, it adds the chevron down. So if you look at the design here, it adds this chevron down icon for us. So we don't have to do that, which is great. So let's make our filters flex and space X of 6. And let's make another container before the select. Let's make it width of 1/3. Okay. And say select. So this is the category. And let's make it width full. Rounded corners. And let's give it some padding. Okay. Let's give it some options here. So option value equals, let's just hard code this. Hard category 1. And let me just add a few in here. Okay, let's see if this renders okay. Okay, looks pretty good. As you see, it adds this chevron down for us, which is great. And in the design, I believe there's no border. Yeah, there's no border here, so let's see if we can get rid of that. Say border none, maybe. Border none. Okay. So what's next here? Next is the other filters, I believe. Yeah, other filters. So I believe I can just duplicate this whole thing and just change it to filters or other filters. Say other filters, and that should be okay. So yeah, let me just change this to other filters. Okay, see how that looks. Looks pretty good. And now we can add the search input here. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's duplicate this container. Actually, let's just do it again. So with 2/3 is what I have here. I guess that doesn't add up, but I guess it still renders correctly. Let's make it relative because there's an icon here and we have to absolutely position that search icon. So this is where the input goes. It's a search input. Placeholder equals find an idea. And let's give it some classes here. Or widthful, rounded XL, BG white, PX4, PY2. Okay, and I believe I have a PL8 here as well. So this is for the search icon, or so there's space for the search icon. Okay, let's get rid of the border again. Say border none. Okay, and yeah, it looks good. So let's go ahead and add the SVG. So let's grab one from Heroicons. So heroicons.com. Let's look for search. And let's grab this one here, copy SVG. Let's paste it above the search input. And let me just re-indent this. Okay. And let's give it a width of 4 is what I have here. And say text gray 500. And let's see if this looks okay. Sorry, the SVG goes underneath. Actually, it doesn't matter because it's going to be absolutely positioned. But I have it underneath here, so absolute, top 0, flex, items center, so it's horizontal, or so it's vertically centered, H full, and ML2. And let's paste in that SVG, and hopefully this renders okay. And it looks like it does. And I believe these two text colors should be the same, and this one's slightly lighter for now. So let's change that. I believe there's a placeholder class we can use in Tailwind, and say text gray 900. So that didn't work. I believe it's placeholder dash gray 900. So yeah, that worked. Cool. So the icon color looks off now, so let's make that a bit darker. So text gray, say 700 maybe. Okay, so that's better. So yeah, I think that's a good place to break. We've installed Breeze, set up our layout, and started the design. And everything is looking quite good. Okay, so in the next video, we'll continue. So let's go ahead and make a commit. So I'll try to make a commit after each episode so you guys can follow along. It might not be entirely clean. I might have to make some changes in between episodes, but I'll try my hardest to keep them clean. So say git add. Oh, it's not even initialized yet, so git init. And say git add, git commit, episode 2. Let's say initial setup and design.